So, oh, your mind didn't go really blank. You remembered your name. Well, I know my name. So therefore, you didn't know the material very well. Yeah. Studies show that studying a little each night is far better than studying a lot at once. The key, I know some of you have done the Tampa Prep auction. How many people have participated in the Tampa Prep auction? You know that it is a massive, 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 massive job. Just think, if the night before the auction, Friday night, you decide, let's start collecting auction items. How big of an auction do you think you'd have? You'd make about $12. As a matter of fact, all that food that you forgot to order didn't get there, so you got to ask for some Kentucky Fried Chicken place to deliver. Maybe, if you're lucky. You cannot put on an auction starting the night before, and a lot of kids want to do that. You can't lose. I tell them, what happens if you want to run a marathon, and it's in 6 months? Do you wait until the night before to start your first step? You got to do it all along, and it makes it so much less painful once they realize that if you just do it a little bit, then it works. And we call that, my husband and I call it Bird by Bird, if you've ever read. There's a book called Bird by Bird, in which I never read the book, though I have it. A friend of mine said it was about the part one story, and I can never forget this, is about this young boy. He had to do a paper on birds, and he had to write a story about 20 birds. And he goes, I can't do it. So they go on the vacation. He says, well, have you started your project? No. It was too big. It's so overwhelming that they can't possibly begin studying. And you don't ever want to start a term paper because it's too massive. They don't know where to begin. And so finally, he says, I can't do it. The father said, just do one bird. Oh, I can do one. So we did one bird. The next day, now do one more bird. And so my husband always, everything we do is bird by bird. He does home improvement, and he may do 10 minutes a day. And eventually, it's amazing, it gets done. Well, okay, that's sort of a lie. After 7 years without a ceiling, we finally hired someone to finish the house. But he did get a lot done in that time. There's a lot to be done. So it's kind of studying a little each night and not waiting to the last minute. It only causes anxiety. It makes you forget. And I don't know how you convince people other than by having a role model for a parent. My parents were great role models. They were about 850 times more organized than I was. I could never, ever, ever be like them. My current husband is also like that, and I'm like bad, but I'm a lot more organized than most people because you just watch people do things. Socializing, that's the most important thing to any middle school or anybody. And we understand that being accepted and having friends may be more important than good, maybe, I'm being really kind, may be more important than good grades. If this is true, talk to your friends after class, during lunch, and at breaks, not during class. Because if you're a friend, you won't bother your friend. It says a real friend will understand your need to pay attention to class. But a lot of kids don't understand what a real friend is. But they will learn those things. Things that irritate teachers. A student talking when a teacher is talking. They do not understand that. Not taking notes when a teacher has asked you to take. How hard is it to copy? Now I realize it's very difficult for students to take notes, because I'm really bad, and listen at the same time. I can multitask, but writing and paying attention cannot do. So there are ways to compensate. One, and my upperclassmen, would you stop? You talk too fast. Wait. Okay, we're ready now. They tell me when I have to stop and when I can begin. I have no problem. I tell them, tell me to stop. But if you're just sitting there and you're not taking any notes, how do I know to stop? Can't take notes and listen. Let me know. Taking notes, I'm the type that I can write down a list of things and I can even crunch it up and throw it. I don't need it. For me, writing imprints in my brain, and I probably don't need it. If I teach any of your children, and this even freaks me out, ask them if they ever walked in the hallway and said, what did I get on the test? And I'm always right. I do not try to remember any grades. It's there. So know what you're good at and take advantage of it. Telling the teacher they don't know how to teach probably is not a good thing. And I ask, what do you hope to accomplish by doing so? I don't get that, but I get it often. Mr. So-and-so can't teach. They can't teach. And I'm like, maybe you don't learn the way they want to learn. And then the question is, what do you do about it? Coming late to class because you were busy chatting in the hallway. Being on time, that's one of my issues. What do you do if you don't like a teacher? Figure out their teaching methods. If you like a teacher to write things on the board, ask in a nice way if they wouldn't mind doing so. I have to see it written. You tell me something? What'd you say? I'm not trying to be rude. I know that I have a pipe, and it goes from here to here, and it's empty in the middle. The auditory goes in, and it falls out. I know what I'm really bad at. I don't remember anything you tell me. Even when I read, I comprehend, I just don't remember anything. Therefore, I have to take notes. I'm a really good typist now. You sit there and all I do is type. I take notes as I read. If I do not take notes when I read, I will remember nothing. I don't have to look at the notes. Once they're there, they're there. So find a method that works. Tape record something. Most teachers do not mind. You got to ask. Do you mind if I tape record the lecture? There may be someone who says no, but I don't have a problem. I mean, no if I'm not going to teach. I guess I'd say no, I don't know. Talk to your advisor about why you don't get along with the teacher. Perhaps the teacher is frustrated with you because you don't do your homework. Or you're never quiet, so they don't give you the time of day when you want to know the answer. Understand your learning style, which is what I did with the students. Do you remember what someone tells you orally? Are you better when a teacher writes information on the board? Some teachers don't write anything on the board, and I'm like, can't do it. Do you learn by practicing the material? That's me. I do it over and over and over again. You have those neural pathways, and every time you do it, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually you learn it so well you don't have to refresh your memory. Do you learn when you take notes? I do. What kind of student are you? And then I said, we're going to give a little short test, etc. And I give them this little personality test, which I gave to the 9th grade parents. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so how to deal with someone who is different from you. Can I go over to Billy's and study? We're going to study math together. Well, sometimes that works. Sometimes it's a giggle fest, or it's a PlayStation fest, etc. There are some groups of people that work very well if they took the personality test, because I've been doing it for a few years, so most should have. People who are, there's a 4-quadrant test, which I'm not going to get into. People who are in the diagonal groups work really well. For example, someone who's, one group is the amiable group, and the amiable group loves to please. They do not do confrontation at all, and they work very well with the person who is very focused and driven, because one wants to socialize, one wants to work. That works well. The other group are the analytics and the expressives. The analytics would rather be by themselves, so you probably won't get them in a group to study, but they love to read everything, analyze. I'm married to one. He read the tax code and enjoyed it. Okay. Now you know. That's why it took him 7 years to even think about putting the ceiling up. But he does beautiful work. And the expressives, they want their ideas being heard all the time. They're the idea people. They sometimes don't follow through with anything, but they're super bright, super creative, super everything. But when it comes to, can you give me anything? That could be more difficult. So, without further ado, what can you do as a parent? That's what I gave the students, the little talk. No idea if anything they listened. They were quiet, but I don't know if they were thinking of, oh, this is so cute. And they were. I mean, they were, first week, come on. They wanted to bond. They wanted to connect. They did not want to listen to me. This I promise you, children will eventually figure out how to use their time wisely. Well, maybe that's a lie, because maybe some of you haven't used your time wisely, and you do grow up. But the big question is, when will they learn how to use their time wisely? And how much should you help them achieve this goal? And how can you? And that's why you're sitting in here. You want to know, what should you do? Let me make a disclaimer. I have no children. There is a reason why I have no children. By the time they were 2, if they weren't perfect, I'd have to kill them, then I'd end in jail. Yes, I would have no patience to do what should be done, the tough love. I know I'm a marshmallow on the inside. I would go, okay, but promise not to do it again, and they would just get worse and worse and worse. I realized I'd be a horrible mother, and so I stick to teaching and mother the ones that I can. But eventually, I think the biggest culprit is parents who enable. The worst thing you can do is help the student too much. Now, could I ever watch my child get a D in a subject? No. Would I have to sit there and micromanage? Yes. And would my child need psychiatric help for the rest of their life? Yes. That is the reason why I do not have children. I know this in advance, was well prepared, made the decision when I was 16. Ever. I would mess them up completely. If your child is in 9th grade, how many have a child 9th grade or lower? And how many have 10th or 12th? Okay. They are different animals. I teach a CP course, an Algebra 2 CP, which is a non-honors class for the students who hate math. And I taught almost all of them in Algebra 1, and the difference is so unbelievable. I tell my CP kids, here's how you do it, boom, they do it. I'm like, they all make A's. And I'm like, how did you do that? You didn't know anything 2 years ago. They grow up. They figure it out. The pain that you have to go through to watch this is probably so incredible that you were incapable of stepping back. Now, I admit, you shouldn't totally step back. There are times when you do need to intervene. And the big question is when and how much. And of course, my answer is it depends on the child. I'm going to break it up into 2 sections. If you are a freshman or lower, first of all, boys mature about 1.5 years after girls do. So the boys who pretend to be 15 now are like a 12-year-old girl. And I can't say they can't help it, because the testosterone coursing through their body blocks all common sense. No offense to men, I don't know. I'm not trying to man bash. But they do want to do well. They truly do, but they're not capable of sitting there when their mind is just... I see some of I teach photo too. I have some senior boys who their creativity and genius is so far beyond me, and I did not teach some of them. I bet they were hell as a 9th grader. That's all I can say. But now that they've learned to harness this absolutely wonderful, delicious expression of themselves as a senior, it's just a joy to be around them. They're just amazing. As a freshman, I know I would have shot them, and as I have, I probably should get one of those plastic tie wraps and tie them to the chair. Is about the only hope. And they do get better because I have them as juniors. I'm like, oh, you're so wonderful. I had one student who's on the board for a while, not a bright 9th grader. Ended up being a lawyer. I don't know how. But there's a lot of them I teach freshman year, and there's no hope for them. And as a senior, they're brilliant and wonderful. And I'm like, brain transplant? I do not know what happens between 9th and 11th grade, because some miracle intervenes and they figure it out. But can you last long enough? Let's take the freshman and lower child. I see no reason, especially if you know this is a problem, to ask them what work is due. And they'll say, I did all my homework in study hall. If that were true, the study halls are pretty quiet, At least mine, you don't talk or you die. And most of the study halls are